Actually, one of the most important issues we're going to discuss at this conference, because if I've heard it once, I've heard it a number of times, the accusation that it's migrant workers that actually hold down wages and cause problems for the British working class. In my view, that's a huge lie. Actually, migrant workers are not the problem, unorganised workers are the problem. Actually, when migrant workers get organised, not only do they actually fight and win, but they actually reinvigorate our movement. And this meeting is about actually killing that lie. The migrant workers are not the cause for austerity, and the migrant workers are not the problem in terms of our movement actually resisting and fighting back. They are actually part of the solution. And if I'm very, very proud to be able to actually chair this meeting. My name is Sandy Nicola. I'm the Unison Branch Secretary at the School of Law and International Studies, University just down the road from here. And I'm particularly proud because the first speaker I want to introduce is a vet in my union branch, Consuelo Moreno, one of the most heroic fighters I've had the privilege to work with in my life. Consuelo is a migrant cleaner from Colombia. She's actually been part of the leadership of a campaign which I think has been inspirational for anybody in central London and should be more widely known across the movement. It's a campaign where migrant workers have self-organised, have led a campaign and have won some serious victories. So without any further ado, can I just introduce Consuelo Moreno.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Consuelo, trabajo en la Universidad de SOAS, soy limpiadora y representante de los limpiadores.
So, good afternoon everyone, that's Consuelo, I've been translated before. So, she works as a cleaner at SOAS, University of London, and she's as well representative of the Justice for Cleaners campaign and the cleaners of SOAS.
Soy inmigrante latinoamericana. En el lugar donde trabajo, el 90% de los limpiadores son inmigrantes.
So Latin American migrant at SOAS, and 90% of cleaners at SOAS are migrant workers from Latin America.
Nosotros vinimos de nuestro país buscando nuevas oportunidades laborales y un poco más de justicia y de dignidad en países como Inglaterra.
So they basically had to come to UK looking for new opportunities, justice and dignity.
Pero nos encontramos con una realidad muy diferente porque entre las dificultades que tenemos como inmigrante, como son la diferente cultura y la barrera del idioma.
However, they faced a different range of obstacles, such as cultural difference and language.
Encontramos mucha injusticia en nuestra parte laboral.
And they fight great injustice regarding their working conditions.
Inclusive el racismo de pensar que nosotros quitamos oportunidades a las personas nacidas aquí o las personas inglesas.
Including racism that takes for granted that migrant workers take the opportunities for people in the UK.
Lo que puedo decir que nosotros como inmigrantes hacemos un gran aporte a la sociedad.
They provide a great amount of work to society in the UK.
Y de hecho, en nuestro sitio de trabajo, conociendo nuestros derechos, nos organizamos como campaña, que es Justice for Cleaners.
So, in order to defend their rights, they organize themselves in this campaign, which is called Justice for Cleaners.
Desde hace 10 años.
And they've been doing it since 10 years now.
Y hemos logrado grandes cambios en los términos y condiciones de nuestra parte laboral.
And in the end, that campaign allowed them to make great changes to the working conditions.
Como son el salario digno, el pago por enfermedad, las vacaciones y la pensión.
Such as improvement in the wages, payment for sickness, holidays. How many days of
30 días de vacaciones.
So 30 days of paid holidays.
Y de estos grandes cambios que se han logrado como inmigrantes, porque somos el 90% inmigrantes, también se han beneficiado trabajadores ingleses que están en SOAS en este momento.
So it was migrants who were asking for these improvement in the conditions, but however, it was also the workers from the UK who benefited from these improvements in the conditions of work.
Entonces sentimos que como inmigrantes somos una fuerza trabajadora que puede ofrecer calidad y aportar a los cambios en el sistema inglés y que son para mejorar nuestros términos y condiciones y la de todas las personas que se organicen en este país.
So migrant workers can be great strength for this country in order to take workers to an improvement of their conditions and assure them some dignity at the workplace.
Nuestra campaña continuará hasta que logremos el objetivo de que la universidad nos contrate directamente.
So they will keep on fighting because right now cleaners at SOAS are outsourced, and they will keep on fighting until they are in-house by the university.
Porque será la única forma de acabar con la explotación que tienen con muchos de los trabajadores, entre ellos inmigrantes.
As that will be the only way of ending the exploitation that there is among the great amount of migrant workers at the university.
Y podremos estar como personas, como trabajadores dignamente y con mucho respeto.
So that the dignity of the workers is respected.
Gracias.
I should have said that we'll have hopefully plenty of time for questions and contributions at the end of the speakers that I've introduced them. So if you've got questions, please sort of note them down so you can come back on that. And the purpose of this workshop is to get as many of you to engage as you possibly can, so please try and think of something to say, contribution, question, anything you think is important to add to the meeting. I should say that we did have apologies from Sam Fairburn, who's ill and can't make it to the event. But we do have, instead of Sam, a speaker who, again, I'm extremely proud to introduce, which is Consuelo, who is a member of the Bakers Food and Allied Workers Union, another member worker in the UK who has stood up and fought heroically to effectively defend not just his own community, but actually the terms and conditions of every worker inside this country. For his sins for having done that, Kuman has been victimised by his employer and is currently in a battle to get Kuman reinstated so he can be back where he belongs, which is to actually represent the workers in his community. So over to you, Kuman.
Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak here. I would like to thank Socialist Party. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak here. I would like to thank Socialist Party, Socialist Workers, Bakers Union, Fighting Union, all the unions who supported me, Teachers Union, Doctors Union, all the unions who have supported me. I would like to thank each and every one who supported my campaign. I used to work for a company called Samet Brothers Kettleby Food. It belongs to Samet Brothers in Melton Mowbray. In January, they bring a new proposal cutting everything like the weekend shift allowance is going to go, night shift allowance is going to go. We have to work on a Christmas day. There is no bank holiday. Everything is going to go. So we went in a hall like this on a proposal, and they were announcing all these things, and all the staffs are listening. Some of the people were crying, I can see. So nobody wants to come in front to ask questions. So I decided myself, okay, let me ask some questions for them. I refused to work on a Christmas day. I said, why should I work on a Christmas day? 12 years. 12 years I didn't work on a Christmas day. Why should I work on a Christmas day? When my directors and managers are enjoying themselves with the wine and everything, if they come to work on a Christmas day, then I will come on a Christmas day. Otherwise, I will not. They told me all the shift allowance is going to go, and every shift is same, Friday, Sunday, Sunday is same, everything is okay. I said, if that's the case, all the directors need to come in shuffle. They need to come on AM, they need to come on weekend shift, they need to come on everything. They have to come in the night shift, then only they will understand what is the effect coming in different shift means. You come on Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 when you go home. You don't understand what shift allowance is, how people working in the night shift, people working on the unsocial hours on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they lose their families, they sacrifice everything to come back to work here, and you're telling the social hours are cut, and you're making 15-30 million profit. I don't know exact figures, but they're making millions and millions profit. profit every year and they don't want to give it charity to the workers. That's not fair. And I said the directors, if whoever is cutting the money, they need to show the courage. They are the leaders. They need to cut their own money first before they cut it up. You are the managing director, you are the director, come in the front and tell me I get £90,000, I get whatever example, I get 10,000 out of my wages because the company is struggling. Whoever is making cut, they don't want to cut their own wages, they want to cut the workers and the team leaders who are working on the shop floor very hard. And in shift system, that's not fair. The company didn't struggle, they're making million profit. And they're suppliers of Tesco and everywhere. So I said I refused to take the new contract and I joined in the union, beggars union. I fight for the workers and the union fight with me and they can't digest it. They throw the allegation one after another which can stick on me and they suspended me. Suspension means I can't speak to my colleagues. So I can't explain about the union, what effect we're going to have. And they suspended me and dismissed me. This is what happened. They set me an example, but I set them an example, say I will fight until the end. And they have given 10% more than what they said, but still it's not more, 4% more for the night shift. That's my victory because I fight for it. And I win for it. You can suspend me, you can dismiss me, but you can do whatever you like, but I will fight for the people until the end. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ribeiro-Addy. She's from the Society of Black Lawyers. The Society of Black Lawyers, if you don't know, are an organisation that works for the elimination of racial discrimination in the profession, but also a great resource for people fighting back and resisting racism across society, but particularly for migrant workers. Bill is an anti-racist campaigner and a former NUS Black Students Officer. We're really pleased to have her here to contribute towards the meeting. Thank you very much.
For having me today. I just wanted to say I am still training to be a lawyer, so if you do ask me for legal advice, I'll give it to you at cheap rates. Just to start off with saying that, and obviously many of you will be clear that scapegoating of immigrant workers is just a way of distracting purely from the government's ideological attachment to austerity. They are, they make out like it's not them, but they're the ones that are helping to point the finger at immigrant workers. And just to make this point, is a complete false economy because without them, the economy would completely collapse. And I know it's a very, very kind of city boy argument, but in this particular fight at the moment, judging by Amber Rudd's speech, which Amber Rudd's comments on radio for this week, you realise that actually people in the city are going to be our biggest allies on this particular issue. When it's strange alliance there. They since the Brexit vote in particular, many firms are talking about leaving. Now, what exactly is that going to do to our economy, and how much worse is that going to make it for everybody? And so many different industries are asking for exemptions, the building industry. And obviously our doctors and nurses are asking for exemptions from rules that may be restricted on freedom of movement. So it's very, very important to realise that the Tories have actually got it very, very wrong. They've completely misjudged this. They've tried to go along a line of what they feel is a kind of popular idea of, we're going to have a sovereign country, everything's going to be great, we're going to be able to survive just by British people, it sounds like British jobs for British workers, that kind of line, but they've completely judged it wrong. And what would happen if we do restrict freedom of movement is everybody would suffer. In fact, they would suffer. Well, their very large bank balances would suffer. And then maybe they'd realise that there was a huge issue. But also, just to say about austerity. Austerity is actually illegal, in my opinion, and a lot in the opinion of many legal professionals. The austerity that's been put forward doesn't actually meet any equality standards that it should do. And when I think about what could happen in terms of what changes for us, if, who knows what's happening at the moment with Brexit, we leave the European Union, all of those protections for workers, and particularly under equality, would fade away very, very quickly. So that is something that we definitely need to look at. Even the UN are concerned about the UK's austerity measures. And when the UN turns its eyes to a nation like Great Britain, you do actually have to start to wonder. Now, the racism on Brexit. I don't believe that we should have the vote again. I know a lot of people, maybe some people here may have actually voted for Brexit. I think they were calling it Lexit. I know, obviously, you wouldn't have done it because you were racist, or because you felt like you didn't want to see, any immigrants in this country. But it has led to what it has led to. But I do think we should have a vote on the terms, for the simple fact that, again, going back to the economy, leaving Europe and ending our freedom of movement agreement will cause a lot of problems. And a lot of people say that Theresa May is the most important woman in British politics, but actually it's Angela Merkel. And she's actually not going to have that. So this idea that we're going to be able to lead the economy, we're going to be able to have freedom of movement and still kind of get all the benefits that we had is not going to happen. It's going to make it a lot worse for everybody. Lost my train of thought. In terms of making sure that we defend a lot of the immigrant workers that are in this country. We do really need to make sure that we're joining organisations like Stand Up to Racism. It's really, really great that we've all come to this event today, but how much more do we all do? How much more do we all get involved on a daily basis? What do we do in our trade unions? What do we do to support maybe the black sections of our trade unions in particular, which are an unheard voice as far as I'm concerned in a lot of the activities that go on within the wider union. It's going to be a major issue coming up in the next couple of months as we actually decide what we're going to do in relation to Brexit. And so I encourage all of you to actually get involved in that sense. And I wouldn't be able to end speaking anything about racism without talking about what's happened over the past couple of months. As well as training to be a lawyer, I also work for Diane Abbott as her political advisor. And I would say that having worked in Parliament for a couple of years, I wouldn't have thought that, if you asked me what would be the strangest thing having worked in Parliament, or what would you expect, I wouldn't have expected to have to read the N-word so many times coming into my inbox. I wouldn't have expected the level of racial abuse that she does receive. A lot of it we don't show to her. A lot of it we have an issue with reporting, because, and that is one thing I hope in her new role that we can tackle. Reporting racist incidents has become so tiresome. It should definitely be a lot easier to actually go to the police or any sort of organisation and actually report what's happened to you without actually feeling that it's a taxing event. And with the increase in racist attacks and racist incidents, I don't think we're getting a real idea of what's happening, for the simple fact that it takes so long to report a racist incident. I bet that many people aren't even bothering to do so. And also, just to tell you a story, when I first maybe met Diane, actually some volunteering for her, I went into Parliament with her in 2010, and we're just walking into the building. I felt very, very proud. I was like walking behind Diana for going into the room. I was a bit younger then, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And walked through. She waited for me to come through security, and obviously she is who she is. She walked into the building that at that time she'd been walking into for 25 years, and walking proudly behind her, a police officer walked up to us and stopped us and said, "Could you please show me your pass?" And I think at that moment I felt completely deflated, because here was me walking behind, feeling quite proud, and then for a police officer to then stop her in a room full of loads of people, single her out, and ask her, if she could produce identification that she worked in this building, which she had done for 25 years. Fast forward, and I wonder what that police officer would think now. To find out the same woman that he decided to stop, that the child of immigrants is actually now going to be scrutinising immigration policy, and the woman that he stopped is actually going to be looking at policing. And the sad thing then is that I turned to her and I said, does this happen often? And she gave me a half smile and said, more than you might think. And that is the type of racism that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And it is very, very important that we all unite against it, black or white, and also that we stop this narrative, this anti-immigrant narrative, because a lot of people say, well, it's just those people that have come from abroad. It's not the ones that already live here. But really, how do they tell the difference? Because I'll tell you about my Auntie Mary, who, now they've got these new rules in place. Auntie Mary came in when she was 25 years old from Ghana. She now is 71 years old. And obviously at her age, this is when she's using most of her NHS kind of trips to the hospital. And she gets asked for her passport. So that is the situation that we find ourselves in, and we've got to change that. And I do believe, with Jeremy now as leader of the Labour Party, that I won't have to keep cancelling my Labour Party membership every time someone says something about immigration. And with the team he's got behind him, like Diane, I really do believe there is hope for the future. I really do believe that if we actually take a stand, instead of trying to out UKIP and out Tory the Tories, we can actually make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill. As a happy resident, I'm really proud to have Diana as the Shadow Home Secretary. And of course, she does the job that we all expect her to be able to do, and actually holding the Tories to account, because clearly the last week we have seen some of the most vicious and unacceptable attacks on migrants in general, but particularly the attacks that actually focus on people inside workplace, and it has to be put a stop to. On that note, I final speaking from the platform before we open up to contributions is Petros Elia. Petros is the General Secretary of a vibrant, small, new trade union, United Voices of the World, and I've been proud to be on many different lines with Petros as we've fought for the rights of migrant workers, cleaners, other activists across central London. So without further ado, Petros, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does this work?
No.
Hello? Everyone seems to be standing, so I'll follow suit. Thank you very much for the invitation here. Sandy said I'm from a trade union called United Voices of the World, and we represent only migrant workers, not exclusively. I mean, anyone can join, so please do if you want to. But our membership made up predominantly of Latin American workers, and we've just recently had a large spike amongst Caribbean workers as well, which is nice. We've been organising now for the last few years in London, and I just wanted to share some of our experiences and just make a few comments really about what I think would be good to see happen in the wider trade union movement, especially in regards to migrant workers. But before that, I just wanted to sort of ask the question really, why do we need to sort of think as workers as migrants or otherwise? Because on the one hand, it may not be that useful in terms of an organising strategy or in terms of fighting back against employers and against the government. But I just sitting here, I didn't prepare anything actually today, as you may notice as I go through this speech, but I just sort of jotted down a few points. Now, really, one of the main things is that a lot of sectors are dominated predominantly by migrant workers. A lot of our members are cleaners, and in those sectors and the workplaces they work in, all of their colleagues are migrants. So that's something we need to address. They've obviously got a lot of language barriers, a lot of the migrant workers, that makes it very hard for them to sort of access a lot of the help and support they need. They come from a lot of different countries, obviously, and so we've got a large membership from Colombia, and as many people know, in Colombia, trade unionists are often just assassinated. So the prospect of being violently attacked and victimised is a real concern for many of them. Which sort of goes into my next point, which is the fear levels. There is a sort of, there's a lot of lack of knowledge about basic rights, even though we don't really have even basic rights in many ways. Those very basic rights at work are not even known about, so that there's a reluctance to sort of reclaim a lot of things which they could be reclaiming. So that goes on to the fear factor, which is off the scale at the moment. So our members are starting from a point of utter terror in terms of the prospects of organising and fighting. And so that's our sort of starting point when members join our union. It's basically how do we overcome that fear which they face, the fear of being victimised, dismissed, and all of the sort of pernicious, and all of the consequences of those things. So a large part of what we do has been just to try and build the confidence of our membership, and we do that really through a lot of social activity, having regular meetings, and really trying to lead by example. So as a union, we don't really push, for example, for large densities. We'll always hope we get large densities in the workplaces of our members, but we won't push for that. And what we've managed to do is actually launch quite large and successful campaigns on behalf of our members, even though they may happen to be constitute a minority of the workers in that workplace. We've also happened to sort of organise very small workplaces, which is obviously not what most, the larger trade unions don't organise in small workplaces. They're always looking for the big fish to catch. But most workers, especially migrant workers, do work in small workplaces. So what we've done is shown by example, really, that without very limited resources and really just a real determination to win, we've gone out there and organised strikes, whereby we organised the longest strike in the history of the City of London, which went on for 61 consecutive days, which we won in the end. We did that. And speaking of picket lines, Sandy was at every single one of those, so that was nice. That was really good to have him there. We've launched other campaigns which are really way above our weight. We've been punching way above our weight, and I think that's the question for the wider trade union movement, is that why have we been able to organise in, for example, St George's University and win the living wage for all of the outsourced workers there? Why have we been able to organise in the Barbican Centre, win the living wage across the entire Corporation of London for all of the outsourced workers there, which were previously on poverty wages? We organised in Sotheby's and we won there. We became the first union to win occupational sick pay for outsourced workers in the private sector in the entire country. We won the living wage at Withers Law Firm, which we just did with the mere threat of picketing their offices, and that was enough for them to give in. And at the moment we're organising at the LSE University, and there's a LSE student I just noticed up there, we've just pulled that out of nothing really. We did that basically just by meeting, talking, and really sort of having the confidence and the belief that we can win if we fight, and and if we don't take no for an answer. And there's a phrase which Sandy always talks about, actually, these low-hanging fruits. And there's a lot of low-hanging fruits out there which we could easily pick if we wanted to, but we just got to have the courage to do it. And I think if we did that, there's no reason why we couldn't be organising hundreds of thousands, if not millions of migrant workers. And I think it's through that organisation as well. It's not just the material gains which we are sort of hoping to gain through the campaigns which we launch. Obviously, we're always pushing for decent wages, we're always pushing for better terms and conditions of employment. We often have to fight for reinstatement of our members, which are often sacked or victimised or suspended, and we've got a good track record of actually getting them back into work when we have to. But beyond the material gains, there's all sorts of gains made in the way of confidence, in the way of social relations, friendships, sort of greater community engagement, and therefore greater political engagement as well. And I do think that the best starting point is through trade unions. It's just trade unions need to change a lot for that to happen, in order to sort of reach out to and encourage and organise migrant workers. So I think just to finish on one thing, we haven't given up in any of our campaigns so far. And I just think if the attitude of sort of fight until the end, no matter how long that takes, was sort of applied in a lot more of the campaigns, and I think there can be a lot more victories than we're seeing at the moment. And I just think that, together, definitely, we don't need millions of pounds to fight, we don't need, hundreds of thousands of people to fight. You can do it with small groups and with small amounts of money, but it makes a huge difference.
After this one now, it's just gone 20 to 3. We have effectively half an hour because the session is scheduled to finish at 10 past 3. So if people can indicate, there are 2 roving mics we're going to pass around, so I'll call people. Start with the woman right here in the front there, followed by the woman actually behind them. So people can keep the hands
I'm Candy Edwin, I'm from PCS Union at the National Gallery, and I think the message coming out of this conference is that we need to be united and we need to stand up and take action to see off the horrible week that we've had last week if you listen to the Tories. And this morning, this follows on from what Petros said. I was late this morning because I work at the National Gallery, but the cleaners at the National Gallery work for a private company. And we had a meeting in McDonald's in Whitehall this morning of all the cleaners at the National Gallery because they came to see me a month ago and talked to me about the problems that they face. And they have now all joined the union and we're fighting for union recognition for them. But when people say that it's migrants who are to blame for low pay, I mean really, they're just having a laugh, aren't they? Because it's the profiteering private companies who want to smash our terms and conditions. That's all, they want the next generation of workers to have no rights, 0 hours and no sick pay and not proper holiday. And so I think that what we can do, we should all be on the demonstration on the 14th and 15th of October and trying to get people that we know and our workmates there. But wherever you are, if you're at college or at work, your cleaners, the people who work and keep our services going, if they haven't got rights, we should encourage them to join a union and start fighting to show that we support them. And also, I know what happens to our cleaners in the toilets when the toilets are dirty, when it's busy. People make racist comments to them, and we have to say that's not on. We're not going to let that happen in our workplaces, and we can all do something about that.
Followed by the guy at the back of the grey top.
Yeah, I'd just like to challenge something that I keep hearing being said, and then I want to make a suggestion. What I want to challenge, people keep saying that since Brexit, the UK is once again going to be an independent, sovereign country. The UK has never been an independent, sovereign country. Why the UK had to practically beg to get into the EU in the 60s and 70s is because the loss of empire in the 50s and 60s taught this country that they could not stand alone. And when the colonies had the chance of buying French Peugeot rather than British Leyland cars, Britain suddenly realized that they needed to be part of a larger bloc. So it would be helpful if that view could be challenged at every opportunity. My suggestion is, in the United States, unfortunately I can't remember what we call the protest, but at a point where in a particular area there was a lot of their anti-immigrant rhetoric, they organized a day of inaction, where all the migrants and their families stayed home. And what they found was that transport had to close down, hospitals, businesses had to close down. And it was a very powerful way of showing the people in that area the extent to which they were dependent on migrants and their families. So I'd suggest that this is the sort of action that could be organized in this country because people simply don't understand how dependent all our public and a lot of private services are on immigrants and their families.
Just on that point about the mics going up there, actually one thing Consuelo did mention is that her colleagues went on strike for effectively 3 days in my university. They shut the university down. Because one thing you cannot do is work in a building that isn't being cleaned regularly, and the value of their work is hugely undervalued, and actually one of the ways that becomes clear is when they stop doing it, so that's a fantastic suggestion. So speak to them, then the guy in the green jumper afterwards.
Hello, my name is James Eden, and I'm here as a delegate from my trade union council, which is based in Chesterfield, North Derbyshire. Part of our patch is Shirebrook, and you may have heard of it as Shirebrook. It's the headquarters of Mike Ashley's Sports Direct. And 2 years ago on New Year's Day, a Polish woman worker there who had asked to go home because she was feeling unwell, was told she couldn't go home, and she gave birth to a child on the floor of the toilet at Sports Direct. The management didn't call an ambulance, they called the police, and the woman was arrested and charged under one of the acts for harming a child for that crime. Now, when that happened, it caused shock and outrage. Really, for a group of activists in the area, we had Sports Direct around for a while. We said we need to do something and begin to organise. And really, I want to say a few things about the way we managed to organise, a very limited way in Sports Direct, which is a poster boy for the exploitation of low-skilled, low-paid migrant workers in this country. Run by Mike Ashley, a multi-millionaire, a guy who said, who quoted the famous saying of Millwall fans, "Nobody likes me, I don't care." That was yet 2 years ago. Well, we began to organise through Unite and done some very important organising work. One of the things Unite does there, big on the issue about language issues, is we've got now, through Unite, English classes for migrant workers, very useful little tool to begin to organise. And Aubrey here is one of the tutors for the English classes that we run at Sports Direct, really important tool. And importantly, by doing some of the public work that the comrade from the United Workers talked about, we've managed to get some small but important victories, like they've sacked the chief executive of Sports Direct, really important. They've also been forced to give more than £1 million in back pay to agency workers who are illegally underpaid at Sports Direct. And also, they've been forced to get rid of their horrific policy of 6 strikes. It's just brilliant policy we have at Sports Direct, where if you're late or if you have too many toilet breaks, you get a strike against your name, 6 strikes and you're out. Now, we've got a long way to go, but I think that shows us if you begin to organise that way, we begin to organise amongst a very large workforce, more than 5,000 workers, predominantly migrant workers, and we can begin to make some important progress.
My name's Michael Burke. I want to take up the point about migrants not driving down wages, because of course what used to be said was that migrants take your jobs, and in fact most people have given up on that, because even the racists largely given up on that, because you can't sustain it when you have record immigration and you have record low unemployment and record although the Tory party Congress did try. Instead, though, we have a very widespread notion that migrants drive down wages. And it's completely untrue. And we can demonstrate it not by some arcane thing, or going to every work in the country, finding out whether they're a migrant or whether they were born here and what they get paid and what they used to get paid. You don't need to do that. You have the whole history of countries like Britain. Because in a country like Britain, the workforce has doubled in the last 80 or 100 years because women entered the workforce. And what happened was, at the same time, not causation, but at the same time, wages rose, real wages rose. So if the workforce doubles and wages rise, how on earth can, say, an increase in the workforce by about 12%, i.e. migrant labour, drive down wages? It doesn't. It really doesn't. But we see this crap coming out, particularly, especially after the Brexit vote. And we have to be honest, I've heard people here today say, not everyone who voted Brexit is a racist. I agree with that. Not everyone who voted for Brexit is a racist. An opinion poll of people who voted for Brexit, over 2,000 of them, showed that 70% of them were. Because they were asked the question, what level of income would you give up to curb immigration? And 70% of them identified a level of immigration that they were willing to give up, a level of pay they were willing to give up in order to curb immigration. That makes them a racist. We should be honest about that. Let's make them all of them a racist. It makes 70% of them racist. But the good news is there's 30% of them that aren't. 30% of them are willing to give up any income in order to curb immigration. And we can win out and win over those people if we have a clear, firstly, anti-racist message, and secondly, a clear economic alternative. That means they won't be giving up any income at all. Thank you very much.
With the section.
Hi, I'm from the Hotel Workers Unite in London. I think, well, we had a discussion in our branch after the exit, Brexit outcome, and we were divided between us. Some of us were we are 77% of the workforce in the hospitality sector are migrants. But anyway, we supported, some of us remain, some of us we supported exit, you know. And as every family, British family was divided, you know, on the campaign. The point is that, well, they are using that outcome, and they wanted to use the referendum as a negotiating tool in the table with the European Union, and it can be backfire on them, you know. And as it backfire in UK, it backfire in the Tories, and it backfire on the right of the Labour Party. So we can use this crisis as a mobilization tool, you know, because, well, this country is anti-racist as a code, you know, and as you can see in what happened 80 years ago in Cable Street. Well, I think we should unite everybody in our trade unions and don't pay any attention to the racists in the establishment. And I think we should do it straight away. You know, I think migrants are not to blame for the austerity or for the crisis, and only inactive people are to blame, because if all of us, migrants and no-migrants, you know, documented and not documented, you know, are fighting, they will back off. They will really, you know, decide that they cannot push the racist agenda. Okay.
Be followed by the woman in with the glasses in the middle there.
Well, thank you. Mine is about an idea. I don't know if they can take it forward. We've all been talking about racism. To me, it appears there is no racism in the United Kingdom, because if there is racism in the United Kingdom, we will be seeing those decisions from the court of law. The reason why we are having all these problems is because we are not attacking the main problem, which is the judiciary. I think if there is a campaign about the judiciary, what is the judiciary doing about racism? Because if we cannot solve racism within the judiciary, we continue to talk from now till tomorrow, nothing will happen. Because if you tell somebody that is a racist, he goes to the court, and the court clears him off, and there's no racism. I think that is the idea. We should make a campaign against the judiciary. Let the judiciary come and say something about racism. And that is the way idea I need to say.
The woman first.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I was inspired to get up and speak really because of what Petros was telling us about the work that his union does. And to be honest, it really makes me angry. If that kind of work can be done by a small organisation, probably with very little resources, exactly, what is the rest of the trade union movement and the trade union we have unions like Unite, massive trade union bodies, with pools and pools of resources, but the trade union leaders do not move. They are part of the established order, and they are responsible for overseeing, really, the last 20 years of not just appalling conditions for migrant workers, but actually worsening conditions for every British-born worker. Yeah, I'm a teacher, and our conditions are worse now than they were 20 or 30 years ago when I first joined, the profession. So I think we have to lay some blame. Those big tankards of trade union movements have to be moved. And we, as part of the perhaps more established trade union movement, have to raise the question about migrant workers' low pay. And you know what's frightening at the moment is that we now have the trade union leaders have overseen and have done nothing in response to the trade union bill, which is going to make it much more difficult for organised workers to organise. But I just want to end on this, because I think that Candy was absolutely right. I work in a school, obviously as a teacher, It's almost like apartheid. The lowest paid jobs, the TAs, teaching assistants and the cleaners, are almost exclusively people who are not from Britain. At the moment there is a dispute brewing amongst TAs in Durham, teaching assistants. Many of them will not be British white workers. We ought to be making sure that we raise that in our trade union. And Stand Up to Racism has produced a petition, which I think everybody should get from the website, that we take around in our own workplaces, demanding that our own managements protect and ensure that all workers, wherever they were born, remain as part of our workforce, that we don't let management name them, shame them, or remove them from our workplaces.
So I think one of the things that's been really useful about the workshop so far is that there's a punchline to the workshops, and I think that's what we've got to think about this workshop really, because when the comment raised the thing about undermining wages, see, this is the key question. The big argument is being put into our workplaces that migrant workers undermine wages. So what we're going to do about that really, I think, and I think there's two bits to it. One is it's not true that there aren't fights against this. You wouldn't get it in the media, but a month or so ago, United Members down at Forley Oil Refinery went on threatened strike action in support of European workers, right, stuff who were being paid low wages, right, stuff. They didn't try to get them off the job. They didn't try to argue British jobs for British workers. They threatened strike action to get everybody's wages up, and they won. Right, stuff about it. And actually, things like this we have to shout about, because there are examples where workers stand together. The problem is we don't get this from the mainstream media. The second thing is, it seems to me that one of the things that Stand Up to Racism's got to try and do within this process is to publicise the struggles of migrant workers. Because one of the things is, if people think that workers are undermining your wages, one of the best ways to break that argument is to show that migrant workers are fighting back. And so therefore, when there are strikes at SOAS, when there are strikes at cleaners at 100 Wood Street, when there are people like Common Boss who are being sacked because they are fighting in defence of migrant workers, but also all workers, when there's a fight at the LSE to try to raise the conditions up, we've got to popularise these fights. One of the absolutely essential thing we've got to do is try to explain to workers across the country that migrant workers are not undermining our wages. Personally, stuff like my family's Irish, right? I'll tell you a secret, there are 7 million of us taking your jobs. 7 million of us in this country and stuff. Because every group of migrants always comes in and they always try to use the same line. We are undermining your wages. No worker who's organised undermines anybody's wages. Therefore, we've got to popularise the struggles of migrant workers. At the LSE next week, when that protest happens, whether you live in London or whether you live in Dundee, we need to do selfies, get the stuff out, get messages of support, and show other workers in our workplaces that migrants are not victims, they are part of the solution for all of us.
Is there anybody I've missed that yet? Anybody that wants to speak that hasn't put their hand up yet? Yeah, come on. Here.
Hearing the stories about migrant workers' struggles is one of the most inspiring things that has come out of this conference, I think, because we know that, in fact, the general level of resistance against austerity is low. It's the lowest level of strikes for 100 years. That, combined with austerity, is a lethal combination. It is a recipe for racism, a context in which racism can flourish. So we need to highlight, Michael is absolutely right, we need to highlight every single battle against the migrant workers fight against low wages. But also I think we need to emphasise the link between austerity and racism. And there's one, I think, very important historical example. The London dockers in 1968 marched in support of the racist politician Enoch Powell, who was sacked from the Tory shadow cabinet for having made the infamous Rivers of Blood speech in 1968. Thousands of dockers marched in support of Powell because they had just lost a major battle against redundancies. Their confidence was low. They turned to racism. A few years later, they won a very important battle in 1972, the famous Pentonville 5 battle. Then in 1976, sorry, I'm rushing, 1976, we had the famous Groundwing strike involving Asian women workers, a very important landmark in post-war British labour history. Many of those dockers who felt confident went to support Asian women workers. There's a lesson there that we can learn from that historical example. We need to just find the point. I think coming out of this campaign, it seems to me we do need to launch a campaign to prevent calling on the unions to oppose unscrupulous employers cutting wage rates, undermining union wage rates. In fact, Jeremy Corbyn talked about legislating against unscrupulous employers who engage in this practice. I think that's one thing we need to explore and maybe push as a demand coming out of this conference.
2 minutes each. The guy who talked, followed by guy here and who's guy in front. The guy who talked first.
Yeah, I think this discussion underlines the need, the importance of basic union organisation. Over the last 30 years, union rights have been whittled away. And of course it's not true that immigrant workers cut down wages. But, you know, we're never given what would be the best solution to deal with that problem. Would be to say we need to have industry-wide collective bargaining so that there is an industry-wide rate for the job. And that would undercut all this argument about immigrants undercutting wages. And if the trade unions aren't fighting the trade union bill, I think one of the main points of the trade union bill is to actually cut and do away with collective bargaining. That's bad for immigrant workers, it's also bad for British workers, and I think that's a very important issue that we need to take up. And I want to just make one more point about the Brexit and racism discussion, because I think history is being rewritten. The Tories are using the Brexit vote as a mandate to carry out racist attack on immigrant workers. And we have to be clear that the vote for Brexit wasn't a vote against for restricting the rights of it wasn't a referendum on immigration. Even the Ashcroft poll, which is the most authoritative inquiry into the people's motivation, most people who voted for Brexit said they were voting to establish national control. And only the second highest vote was over the question of immigration. When you think about it, that's not surprising, because the whole referendum was dominated by the issue of immigration. So we should be surprised about that.
I remember going down the SOAS picket lines, 6 or 7 years ago? I remember it well, because it was really inspiring, because you'd won the London living wage, you won union recognition, things that as a call centre worker, we hadn't won. In our workplace, it was inspiring. I also remember it because it was the same week that Gordon Brown coined the phrase British jobs for British workers. And thank God now, or thank people that voted for it, that we have a Labour leader that absolutely stands well against that kind of rotten tradition. Someone stands up for migrant workers and doesn't make any concessions on the questions of immigration. Unlike the people that are opposing it. I mean, Rachel Reeves has got one better than Gordon Brown and seems to be kind of echoing Enoch Powell. You've got Chuka Umunna who's coming out with quite racist statements as well. And I think we need to be, that's why I think stand-up racism is going to be so key. Also, I think we need to have stand-up racism groups in every single workplace. But also, we need to create, someone mentioned Grumblings. Look at the footage of Grumblings. The amount of miners and different workers, thousands of workers that turned up on those picking lines. We need to encourage the same kind of thing when it comes to the cleaning strikes and all the rest of it. Truth of the matter is, though, is there a strike at the moment in Britain that don't involve migrant workers? Can't think of any. So I think we need to back every single strike. It's a shame, really, that the junior doctor strike got called off. One of the great kind of messages of unity has been that dispute. But throughout our history, migrant workers have been up. We go right back to the start in terms of the birth of our modern trade union movement was the match work girl strike, Irish immigrants. I think that's the tradition we stand in. I think, let's build standardisation groups in every workplace.
Thank you. I was having a discussion with a work colleague of mine just last week, just after Corbyn was elected again, And one of my work colleagues, it's the first time I've actually spoken to her. She works part-time, I work part-time, it's very rare our paths cross. And what she said to me that she was a long-life Labour supporter, but she wouldn't support Corbyn simply because he supported migration. That was how the discussion started from. And then I just basically listened to her, and then there's a whole number of quite nasty stuff came out, everything from it's Muslim bombers and this kind of all the stereotypical stuff which the media put on, which you push them through. And I asked her a question. I said, did she support the closure of Liverpool Women's Hospital in Liverpool, which is being earmarked for closure, one of the biggest hospitals and maternity hospitals in Europe? Did she support the idea that foreign workers should go on a register and in fact leading to the fact that these foreign workers might be sent over? Of course she didn't. Contradictory ideas. I asked her the cleaners in our workplace, who she knew some of them were migrant workers, should be sent back home using her language. Of course she didn't mean that. So what I'm saying is that although she starts off with racism, people can have contradictory ideas. I'm not surprised she's got contradictory ideas, because I work in a workplace where we've had our wages cut twice, we've had our shift allowances, of course, we work for social services which has been absolutely decimated, with the Labour Council incidentally, and there's been not one councillor who's voted against Elia, because it's hardly surprising in that situation that people look for scapegoat. That's what Stand Up to Racism is all about. Just one question I'd love to see an educational pack that maybe Stand Up to Racism can put together, so we can go through all the facts. For instance, I suggested one fact out, I suggested to her that we should be outside. If you're worried about people being killed by Muslim terrorists and all the rest of it, we should be outside IKEA with a pick line. And she said, why? I said, because you've got more chance of being killed by putting a flat pack together than what you have by Muslim terrorists.
One is that obviously if you haven't joined Stand Up to Racism yet, you really should do. There's a stall here, there's others over at the main building. Obviously I'm going to try and shut the meeting down in a minute because obviously people will want to get to the final session. There's another announcement I've been asked to make, which is that West London Stand Up to Racism and Unite Community are having a lobby outside the Owen Council Tuesday at 11 o'clock, 11th October at 6 p.m. It's in support of the Alpha Thumbs motion which is going to the council that day. I'm just going to call two of the speakers back for 1 minute each just to sum up the discussion about what's standing.
Just to say, I think the gentleman...
And I don't think there have been as many efforts as there should have been to get as many people down, not only to pick up but to protests as well. And I don't think anything's changed in that sense about how to force employers to succumb to your demands. I mean, at the end of the day, it's one thing when you're facing a multinational company, and I think that does require a slightly different approach. But I think there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of workplaces that simply would not put up with getting 50 to 100 people outside their door every day demanding that they pay the living wage, or demanding that they reinstate someone that they victimise, or demanding that they, provide them with decent terms and conditions of employment. It's not hard. And I just think that, we need to be making far bigger efforts to actually just encourage people to get down, stand outside workplaces, and just shout at the bosses until they let you all give in.